They brought humans to the Deathworld summit. That was a huge mistake. Part 1. Jack Miller stood at the viewing window of his office in the Earth Embassy, looking out at the busy spaceport of Galactic Central. Tall buildings with strange shapes reached toward the purple sky. Ships of all sizes moved between the stars, each one carrying beings from worlds Jack could barely imagine. 10 years had passed since humans joined the Galactic Confederation. 10 years of learning they were seen as strange, dangerous creatures who came from a world the aliens called a death world. Earth, with its changing weather, strong gravity, and many predators, was considered too hard for smart life to grow. But humans had not just lived there, they had built cities, gone to space, and now walked among the stars. Jack's computer made a sound. A message had arrived. He turned from the window and went to his desk. The message showed the official seal of the High Council, the group of old and respected aliens who ran the Confederation. Ambassador Miller, the message began. The Galactic Confederation will hold its 100th Deathworld Summit in 30 Earth days. As the newest Deathworld species to join our community, humans are invited to send 5 delegates to share knowledge and learn from other survivors of harsh worlds. Please reply with your chosen delegates within 10 days. Jack read the message twice. The Deathworld Summit was famous. Every 100 years, beings from the 12 known Deathworld species met to talk about how they lived and grew on worlds that should have killed them. Humans would be the 13th species there. He pressed a button on his desk. Nancy, call Earth Command. I need to speak with the President right away. 3 days later, Jack looked at the 5 humans who would go with him to the summit. They sat around the big table in the embassy meeting room. Each had been picked for their special skills and knowledge. Dr. Susan Walker sat with perfect posture, her gray hair tied back neatly. She was the best biologist on Earth, known for her work on how Earth life changed to survive in hard places. Next to her was Commander Alan Davis, a tall man with dark skin and serious eyes. He had led Earth forces in 3 space battles when aliens tried to take human colonies. Across from them sat Dr. Patricia Lee, a small woman with kind eyes and quick hands. As an anthropologist, she studied how human groups lived and worked together. She would help them understand the other species. Chief Engineer Greg Thompson was a big man with rough hands and a friendly smile. He knew more about machines and technology than anyone else on Earth. The last member was Security Officer Laura Wilson. She sat very still, watching everything. Before coming to space, she had been in Earth's Special Forces, trained to fight and survive in the worst places on the planet. You 5 will show the Confederation what humans can do, Jack said. They think we're just strange animals who somehow learn to use tools. We need to show them we belong among the stars. Why do they look down on us so much? Greg asked. We've built some amazing things since we joined the Confederation. Susan smiled. To them, we're new and scary. Humans adapt faster than any species they've met. We don't just survive our hard world. We change it to suit us. That frightens them. I've read about the other Deathworld species, Patricia said. Each evolved special bodies to live in their harsh environments. The Morgoth have stone-like skin to survive crushing gravity. The Drev can breathe water filled with acid, but humans just figure things out, Laura finished. We make tools. We work together. We keep trying until we win. Jack nodded. Exactly. And that's what makes us dangerous in their eyes. A soft bell rang. Nancy's voice came through the speaker. Ambassador, the Confederation ship has arrived. Captain Zextral requests permission to dock at the embassy port. Permission granted, Jack said. We'll meet them there. The 6 humans stood in the small docking area as the airlock opened. Captain Zextral ducked to enter the room. He was nearly 8 feet tall, with a body like a praying mantis but covered in blue-green plates. His forearms moved with careful grace and his large compound eyes looked at each human in turn. Ambassador Miller, the captain said, his voice coming from a small box on his chest that translated his clicks and whistles into English. The Harmonious Accord is ready to transport your delegation to the Nexus of Resilience Station. We will depart as soon as your team is aboard. Thank you, Captain, Jack said. We're ready now. The captain's eyes focused on Laura's side. where her standard-issue stun pistol was holstered. "Weapons will not be needed, security officer. The summit is a place of peace and learning." Laura didn't move. "On Earth we have a saying, better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it." The captain made a sound the translator didn't catch. "As you wish, please follow me." The harmonious accord was huge. The humans were given a section near the back of the ship. Their rooms were much warmer than human standard, and the gravity was light, making them feel like they were bouncing with each step. As they settled in for the 3-day journey, Jack called them together in the small meeting room attached to their quarters. "Earth Command sent me a message just before we left," he said quietly. "Our intelligence suggests the Confederation has other reasons for inviting us to this summit. They may be testing us or studying us. Like animals in a zoo?" Greg asked with a frown. "Or like a possible threat," Alan said. "We've expanded faster than they expected. Humans have started 20 colonies in 10 years. Most species take 100 years to do that." Susan leaned forward. "So what's our real mission here?" Jack looked at each of them. "Show them who we are. Show them what humans can do. But be careful. We're not just representing Earth. We're being judged by beings who have been watching the stars for thousands of years." The ship hummed around them as it moved through the space between stars, carrying the first humans to ever attend the Deathworld summit. None of them knew what waited for them there, but all felt the weight of representing their planet among the stars. What they did know was this: humans hadn't just survived Earth, they had mastered it, and now they were ready to show the galaxy what that meant. They brought humans to the Deathworld summit. That was a huge mistake. Part 2, the harmonious accord slowed as it neared a massive space station. The nexus of resilience looked like a giant metal snowflake with lights all over it. It spun slowly, creating gravity in its outer rings. At its center was a bright blue ball of energy that powered everything. "Wow," said Greg as he pressed his face to the viewing window. "That station must be 10 miles across." Captain Zexatrell made a clicking sound that might have been a laugh. "The nexus is 23 of your Earth miles in diameter. It was built 4,000 years ago to host important Confederation meetings." The 6 humans gathered their bags as the ship docked. They had packed light, bringing only what they needed for the 2-week summit. Jack led them through the airlock and into the station. The main hall was huge. The ceiling was so high they could barely see it. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved around, talking in strange languages. Some walked on many legs, others floated through the air. A few rolled like balls or slid like snakes. A small round alien with purple skin and 3 eyes floated up to them. "Welcome, humans. I am Blix, your guide during the Deathworld summit. Let me show you to your quarters, and then we will go to the welcome reception." The humans followed Blix through wide hallways. Aliens stopped to stare at them. Some moved away quickly. Others whispered to each other while pointing. "They act like they've never seen humans before," Laura said quietly. "Most of them haven't," Jack replied. "Few aliens visit Earth, and most humans stay in our own space. To them, we are the strange new creatures." Blix showed them to their rooms, which were more comfortable than the ones on the ship. The temperature was just right, and the gravity felt normal. "The reception starts in 1 hour," Blix said. "All 13 Deathworld species will be there." After Blix left, Jack gathered everyone in his room. "Remember, we're here to learn, but also to show what humans can do. Be friendly, but stay alert." An hour later, they entered a large room filled with aliens. Tables with strange foods and drinks lined the walls. In the center, groups of beings talked in small circles. Blix appeared. Again. "Let me introduce you to the other Deathworlders." First, they met the Morgath. They looked like walking rocks with glowing cracks between their stone plates. They moved slowly in the station's light gravity. "Our world has gravity 3 times stronger than Earth," one Morgath said in a deep, rumbling voice. "And the surface is always changing from earthquakes and volcanoes." Next were the Drev, who floated in personal water tanks. Their blue bodies looked like a mix between sharks and octopuses. "Our oceans would burn your skin," a Drev bubbled through a translator, "but they are home to us." The Voldar were like giant insects with hard shells and many eyes. They moved as a group, never more than a few feet from each other. "We share one mind among many bodies," they said all at once, their voices blending together. "It helps us survive the radiation storms of our world." There were other species too, the tall tree-like arbori from a world with crushing air pressure, the small, fast-moving zik from a planet that was mostly desert, and the krill, who looked almost human except for their gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand. Patricia tried to shake hands with a Voldar, but the whole group moved back quickly. "Sorry," Patricia said. "I didn't mean to scare you." "Your kind touches others?" the Voldar asked, sounding shocked. "That is very brave. On our world, touch often means death." Alan was talking with a group of krill about Earth. "Our planet has many dangers. Storms, earthquakes, floods, but the worst threats have always been other humans." "You fight your own kind?" a krill asked, eyes wide. "We've had many wars," Alan said. "Our history is full of battles and conflicts." The krill looked at each other with worry in their eyes. Later, a huge reptile with scales like diamonds and teeth as long as Laura's hand approached them. He was 9 feet tall and wore a shiny metal suit. "I am Chrysax from Taurus IV," he said in a hissing voice. "We have heard stories about humans but didn't believe them. Is it true you hunt other animals for fun?" Greg shrugged. "Sometimes. Mostly it's for population control of certain species now." The other aliens nearby stopped talking. They stared at the humans with new eyes. Susan noticed something interesting. The other Deathworld species had all changed their bodies to live in their harsh worlds. The Morgath had rock-like skin. The Drev could breathe in acid. The Voldar shared a hive mind to survive radiation. But humans hadn't changed their bodies much. They had soft skin. They could only breathe air. They couldn't see in the dark or survive extreme heat or cold without help. Instead, humans had changed their worlds. They built homes to keep out the weather. They made clothes to stay warm. They created tools to make up for what their bodies couldn't do. And when that wasn't enough, they worked together to solve bigger problems. Susan tried to explain this to a group of arbori. "Humans adapt by using our brains, not by changing our bodies." "But that is so slow," an arbori said. Leaves, rustling. "When danger comes, you have to think and build. We just grow thicker bark." "It's not always slow," Susan said. "Humans can be very creative when our lives are in danger." As the night went on, the humans noticed the other aliens watching them closely. Some seemed afraid. Others were curious. A few looked like they were studying specimens in a lab. When they returned to their rooms, Jack called an emergency meeting. He held up a small device that blocked listening devices. "I just got a secure message from Earth Command," he said in a low voice. "Our intelligence was right. The Confederation didn't invite us here just to be friendly. They're worried about how fast humans are spreading through space. This summit is a test." "What kind of test?" Laura asked, her hand moving to where her stun pistol would be if she were wearing it. "They want to see if we're a threat," Jack said. "They've been watching Earth for centuries before they contacted us. They've seen our wars, our quick growth, how we take over new places." Greg frowned. "So this whole summit might be a trap?" "Not a trap exactly," Jack said. "But definitely not just a friendly meeting. We need to be careful. Show them that humans are worth having as allies, not enemies." As they talked, none of them noticed the small device in the air vent. It wasn't just listening, it was watching. In another part of the station, a group of high-ranking Confederation officials viewed the humans with growing concern. "They suspect," one said. "They are more aware than we thought." "Good," another replied. "The test begins tomorrow. Then we'll see what these humans are truly capable of." They brought humans to the Deathworld summit. That was a huge mistake. Part 3. The humans woke to a loud announcement echoing through their rooms. "All delegates, please gather in the central arena in 1 hour for the official opening of the Deathworld Summit." Jack called everyone to his room for a quick meeting. "Be ready for anything today," he said. "Remember what we learned last night. This isn't just a friendly meeting." When they arrived at the central arena, they found a huge, round room with seats for thousands of aliens. In the middle was a large open space. The human delegation was led to a special section where the other Deathworld species sat. A tall, thin alien with skin like blue glass stepped onto a floating platform in the center. He raised all four of his arms for quiet. "Welcome to the 100th Deathworld Summit," he said, his voice booming through the arena. "I am Counselor Ethos of the High Council. For 10,000 years, the Confederation has brought together the galaxy's greatest minds. Today, we welcome our newest members, the humans of Earth." Lights shined on the human section. The crowd murmured and pointed. "As is tradition," Ethos continued, "the summit will include the Deathworld Challenge. Each species will face tests that show how they have adapted to survive harsh conditions. The challenges begin today." Jack looked worried. "We weren't told about any challenges." A screen appeared in the air showing the schedule. The Morgath would go first, then the Drev, then the Voldar. Humans were last. The first challenge took place in a huge room that could change to look like different worlds. For the Morgath, it became a hot, rocky place with heavy gravity. The ground shook and cracked. Volcanoes shot fire into the air. The Morgath moved slowly across this dangerous landscape. Their stone bodies handled the heat and pressure easily. They reached the other side without trouble. For the Drev, the room became a deep ocean filled with burning acid. The Drev swam through it like it was normal water. Their bodies were made for this. When the Voldar's turn came, the room filled with deadly radiation. The insect-like beings moved as one group, their shared mind helping them avoid the worst areas. They used their hard shells to block the radiation. Each species showed off the special body changes that let them live on their homeworlds. The other Deathworld species had lived in the Confederation for thousands of years. They had advanced technology, but still relied mostly on their evolved bodies to survive. Finally, it was the humans' turn. Jack, Susan, Alan, Patricia, Greg, and Laura entered the challenge room. The door closed behind them. The room changed into a frozen wasteland. Snow fell from dark clouds. Ice covered everything. The temperature dropped far below freezing. "This is like winter in northern Canada," Alan said, his breath making clouds in the cold air. The other aliens watched from safe viewing areas. They expected the soft-skinned humans to huddle together for warmth, to simply endure until the challenge ended. Instead, the humans got to work. Greg and Alan gathered ice and snow to build a small shelter. Susan found plants under the snow that could burn. Patricia used her knowledge of old human survival methods to start a fire without matches or lighters. Laura scouted the area, looking for resources and dangers. Jack organized their efforts, making sure everyone worked together. Within an hour, they had built a snow shelter, made warm clothing from materials in the environment, started a fire, and even set traps to catch the small animals they had spotted. The aliens watching were amazed. The humans weren't just surviving, they were taking control of their environment. "They're changing the world to fit them, instead of just enduring it," one Confederation scientist said to another. "I've never seen anything like it." After the environment challenges came the individual tests. Each species chose one member to show off their personal skills. The Morgath champion lifted huge rocks. The Drev champion swam through different kinds of acid without harm. The Voldar champion split from its group mind and still survived high radiation. When it was time for the human challenge, Laura stepped forward. The Confederation officials led her to a fighting ring. A Voldar warrior twice her size waited there. "This is a ceremonial combat demonstration," a Confederation judge explained. "Show us how your species deals with larger, stronger enemies." The Voldar charged at Laura, its hard shell gleaming under the lights. Laura didn't try to match its strength. Instead, she watched how it moved. She noticed a small gap in its shell near its joints. The Voldar swung its arm at her, but Laura ducked under it. She moved quickly, using the Voldar's size against it. When it charged again, she stepped aside and struck at the gap in its shell. The Voldar froze, then fell to the ground. Laura hadn't hurt it badly, but she had found the one weak spot in its armor in just seconds. The crowd went silent. "Where I come from," Laura said to the stunned audience, We study our enemies before we fight them. That night at dinner, the other Deathworld species treated the humans differently. Some seemed afraid. Others were interested in learning more. A few wanted to form alliances. Patricia was talking with a group of krill when she noticed something strange. "They're all watching us," she whispered to Jack. "Not just the delegates, the Confederation officials too. They have recording devices everywhere." Back in their rooms, Greg found hidden devices watching them. He didn't remove them. Instead, he changed them to show the same images over and over while the humans talked privately. "They're studying us like lab animals," Susan said, "testing our limits." "But why?" Alan asked. "What are they looking for?" Jack looked troubled. "I think they're trying to decide if we're a threat. Humans are different from the other Deathworld species. We don't just adapt our bodies. We adapt our environment. We work together. We study problems and solve them. And that scares them," Laura added. "Because it means we can adapt to anything." Greg nodded. "Including fighting them if we had to." "Tomorrow the challenges get harder," Jack said. "We need to show them that humans are worth having as allies, not enemies to fear." As they talked in another part of the station, the Confederation High Council was meeting secretly. "The humans are more dangerous than we thought," one council member said. "They adapt too quickly, they work together too well." "We need to test them further," Ethos replied. "Push them to their limits." "How?" asked another. Ethos looked at the screen showing the humans. "We have an emergency plan. It's time to use it." They brought humans to the Deathworld Summit. That was a huge mistake. Part 4. The fourth day of the summit began with more tests. The humans showed how they could solve puzzles, work together, and use tools. Each time, they surprised the watching aliens with their quick thinking and teamwork. After lunch, Jack and his team were walking to the next event when a deep, loud alarm began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the hallways. Aliens ran in all directions, some screaming in fear. "What's happening?" Patricia asked a passing krill. "The antimatter containment system is failing," the krill shouted as he ran past. "If it breaks completely, the whole station will explode." Jack gathered his team quickly. "What do we know about antimatter containment?" he asked. Greg stepped forward. "I studied the station's power systems last night. The antimatter core is held in place by magnetic fields. If those fields fail, the antimatter will touch normal matter and cause a huge explosion." "Can we help fix it?" Jack asked. "Maybe," Greg said, "but we need to get to the engineering section fast." As they moved through the station, they saw other aliens running toward escape pods. The Morgath moved slowly, their heavy stone bodies making it hard to hurry. The Drev struggled without their water tanks. The Voldar moved as one group, blocking hallways. "They're all trying to save themselves," Alan noted. "No one is trying to fix the problem." When the humans reached the engineering section, they found chaos. Alarms blared, screens showed flashing warnings. A few Confederation engineers huddled in a corner, arguing. Greg went to the main control panel. He studied the readings carefully. "The magnetic containment fields are failing," he told the others. "But if we reroute power from other systems, we might be able to strengthen them enough to stop the antimatter from escaping." A Morgath engineer named Durvak shook his rocky head. "Impossible. The radiation levels in the control chamber are already lethal. No one can go in there to make the changes." Laura stepped forward. "Humans can handle more radiation than you might think." "How long would someone need to be in there?" 3 minutes, maybe 4, Greg said. "But the radiation would kill anyone, in less than 10. "Then we have a chance," Laura said. "What needs to be done?" Greg quickly explained what switches needed to be flipped and which systems to reroute. Laura nodded, memorizing everything. "I'll go," she said firmly. "Not alone," Alan replied. "2 people working together will be faster." Jack looked worried but nodded. "Be careful, both of you." Susan pulled medical supplies from her bag. "I brought radiation treatments just in case. They won't stop all damage, but they might help." Patricia studied the station maps on a nearby screen. "The quickest evacuation routes are here. And here, she said, pointing, I can help direct people if needed. The Confederation engineers watched in shock as the humans quickly organized themselves. Instead of running for safety, they were working to save the station. Laura and Alan put on the best protective gear available and entered the control chamber. The radiation meters on their suits immediately began to rise into the danger zone. Working quickly, they began rerouting power systems. The magnetic fields are starting to stabilize, Greg called from the main control room. But we need more power. Shut down the artificial gravity on decks 7 through 12, Alan shouted. Back. That should give us enough. As they worked, Laura noticed something strange. The control panel had a small device attached to it that didn't look like it belonged there. She didn't have time to investigate, but she made a mental note of it. After 3 minutes, the radiation levels had reached deadly amounts. Alan was sweating heavily. Laura's hands shook, but they kept working. Just one more connection, Alan gasped. With trembling fingers, Laura connected the final power circuit. The alarm suddenly stopped. The flashing red lights turned green. Containment field stabilizing, Greg announced. It's working. Laura and Alan stumbled out of the control chamber and collapsed. Susan immediately began treating them for radiation exposure. Get them to the medical bay, Jack ordered. 2 Confederation medical officers helped carry Laura and Alan away. As the crisis ended, Jack noticed how the other aliens were looking at the humans. It wasn't just fear anymore. There was respect in their eyes, and something else. Awe. Counselor, Ethos himself came to the engineering section. He looked at the humans with an expression Jack couldn't read. You saved the station, Ethos said. Why? Because people were in danger, Jack replied simply. On Earth, we don't run from a crisis. We face it. Later, when Laura and Alan were resting in the medical bay, Greg showed Jack and the others what Laura had found. The strange device from the control panel was a simulator. It had caused the system to act like it was failing when it wasn't. The whole thing was fake, Greg said. A test to see what we would do. They put the entire station at risk just to test us? Patricia asked in shock. No, Susan said, understanding dawning on her face. They knew the containment system wasn't really failing. The only real danger was the radiation in the control room. They wanted to see if we would run or fight, Jack said slowly. If we would save ourselves or try to save everyone. That night, as Laura and Alan recovered, the human delegation was invited to a special dinner with the High Council. The other, Deathworld species were there too, but all eyes were on the humans. Jack noticed the aliens treating his team differently. The Morgath bowed their stone heads in respect. The Drev bubbled excited greetings. Even the Voldar moved closer to the humans than before. Something has changed, Jack said quietly to Patricia. The way they see us is different now. We weren't just test subjects anymore, Patricia replied. When we chose to risk our lives to save the station, we became equals. But as Jack looked, across the room he saw Counselor Ethos watching them with calculating eyes. The test might be over, but Jack knew the final judgment had not yet been made. They brought humans to the Deathworld summit. That was a huge mistake. Part 5. The final day of the Deathworld summit, all delegates gathered in the main hall. The room was packed with aliens from across the galaxy. The 6 humans sat together, watching as Counselor Ethos walked to the center of the room. Ethos raised his forearms for silence. His blue glass-like skin caught the light as he moved. For 10,000 years, Ethos began, the Galactic Confederation has brought together species from thousands of worlds. We have classified planets by their difficulty. Gas giants, ocean, worlds, desert planets, each presents its own challenges. But death worlds are special. They are so harsh that intelligent life should never have evolved there. He turned to look directly at the human delegation. Each death world species has found its own path to survival. The Morgath grew stone skin to withstand crushing gravity. The Drev adapted to breathe acid. The Voldar learned to share their minds, to survive radiation. The hall was completely silent. Everyone watched Ethos as he continued. But humans are different, he said. Your bodies are soft. Your skin burns easily in the sun. You cannot breathe water. You die quickly in extreme heat or cold. By all logic, you should never have survived on Earth, let alone reached the stars. Jack shifted in his seat, unsure where this speech was going. Yet you did survive, Ethos said. Not by changing your bodies to fit your world, but by changing your world to fit your bodies. You built shelters against the weather. You made clothes to stay warm. You created tools to make up for what your bodies could not do. And most importantly, you worked together. Ethos walked closer to the humans. For 10,000 years we have believed that Deathworld species were limited by their origins. We thought they would always be defined by the harshness that shaped them. Humans have shown us something new. The entire hall waited for his next words. You are not merely survivors of a death world. You are not defined by Earth's hostility. Instead, you have defined yourselves by overcoming it. Ethos raised a small, glowing object. A new symbol appeared in the air above the humans, a blue and green planet with a star bursting from it. Today, the High Council creates a new classification, Alpha Deathworld. Earth is the first planet to receive this designation. It recognizes that humans have not just adapted to their harsh environment, but have mastered it. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some aliens looked worried. Others seemed excited. Now, Ethos said, his voice growing more serious, I must confess something to you. The entire summit, including the antimatter containment failure, was a test. Jack stood up. You put lives at risk to test us? No, Ethos replied. The radiation in the control room was real, but the containment system was never in danger. We needed to understand whether humans represented a threat or an opportunity to the Confederation. And what did you decide? Jack asked. Ethos looked at each human in turn. When we first discovered Earth, we found something troubling in your history. After every major disaster, plagues, wars, natural catastrophes, humans came back stronger. You advanced more quickly. You built better technology. You formed stronger bonds. Susan nodded slowly. Adversity makes us innovative. Exactly, Ethos said. Your species turns problems into progress. Where others survive, you thrive. Where others adapt, you innovate. He turned to address the whole room. The High Council has voted. Earth and humanity are formally welcomed as full members of the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and responsibilities. Cheers erupted from many of the aliens. The krill jumped up and down in excitement. Even the slow-moving Morgath rumbled their approval. As the celebration began, representatives from each Deathworld species approached the humans. They wanted to form alliances, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. The Deathworlders are united now, Patricia said to Jack with a smile. Under human leadership. Not leadership, Jack corrected her. Partnership. We all have something to learn from each other. Later, as the humans prepared to return to Earth, Captain Zexatral approached them at the docking bay. Ambassador Miller, he said, his voice translator struggling to convey emotion. I must admit something. When I first transported your delegation, I believed humans were fragile creatures who somehow survived by luck. And now? Jack asked. Now I understand, Zexatral replied. The Confederation brought humans to the Deathworld Summit thinking you were just another species to study. That was a huge mistake. You have changed the Confederation forever. On the journey back to Earth, the humans looked out at the stars passing by. The ship seemed different now. Not alien, just another tool humans would learn to use and improve. What happens next? Greg asked as they gathered in the ship's lounge. Everything changes, Jack replied. With the Confederation's knowledge and resources and our human drive to adapt and improve, there's no limit to what we can achieve. Laura, still recovering from radiation exposure but getting better each day, smiled. They thought they were studying us like animals in a zoo. Instead, they found equals, or maybe something more. They found humans, Alan said simply. As Earth came into view on their return journey, Jack thought about what this new alliance would mean. Humans had survived their harsh world and reached for the stars. Now the galaxy was open to them. The Confederation had invited humans thinking they were just another curious species from a deadly planet. Instead, they had found humanity, adaptable, resourceful, and unstoppable. That had been their mistake, and humanity's greatest opportunity. None of the aliens realized yet just how quickly humans would spread among the stars, bringing their unique problem-solving abilities to worlds they had never imagined. But they would learn soon enough. The universe had no idea what was coming.